Hey, here we go. Welcome, welcome to the Thriving Creative. I come live almost every single Tuesday at 2 when I'm able to. That's the majority of the time. Every once in a while, something comes up and I'm not able to be here live. But today I am here live and in person. So if you are catching this on Facebook, you can go ahead and make a comment in the comment section, say hello, where you're tuning in from. If you have any questions for me about thriving or thriving as an artist or any other thing that is relevant to what I talk about, which is a lot of different things, go ahead and throw it in the comment section. And if I can, I will answer your questions or respond to your comment, whether live here during the live stream or some other time when I see your comments. So let's get going. Here's a question for you. What holds you back from putting your work out into the world? For many creatives, it is fear. The fear of rejection, criticism, or simply being seen. And here's the truth. Your art, your voice, and your story have value. Overcoming the fear of being seen is one of the most empowering things you can do as a creative. In today's episode of The Thriving Creative, I'll share strategies for building confidence, embracing vulnerability, and sharing your work with the world. I'll also draw on insights from my Invisibility Lab project, where I've worked with hundreds of people to explore what it means to feel seen, unseen, and celebrated in both creative and personal spaces. And for those ready to dive deeper, I'm offering a limited number of 30-minute visibility coaching calls. This is your chance to work with me one-on-one to unlock your fearless expression and take that next step in sharing your work. Details are in the show notes, either here on Facebook or on the YouTube channel for The Thriving Creative. So welcome back to The Thriving Creative. I'm your host, Gabrielle Senza, and today we're diving into a topic that so many of us grapple with, and that is the fear of being seen. Which is interesting because my invisibility lab work often talks about when have you felt invisible and when have you wished to be invisible. And those are in all the contexts. It could be at work, at home, with your partner, with your kids or family members, even just shopping in the world. And I've heard so many stories about people who have felt invisible. And in those circumstances, all those different circumstances, and people who have wished to be invisible, usually having to do with either embarrassment is the most frequent one, but also for the sake of personal safety. And certainly in today's environment, with what's happening in the United States, there are a lot of people who are really worried about being seen. And while they want to be appreciated, acknowledged, respected, counted, they want to belong, they want to be in service in their communities, helping do all the things that they love to do, serving their communities, contributing in all the ways that they do, they currently are not able to feel safe. And that's the primary thing that the Invisibility Lab explores. And if you want to explore that more with me, you can always reach out to me. I have a website, invisibilitylab.com, which talks a little bit about it. I'm working on a book that will be sharing all of my field notes from all of the hundreds, even thousands of interactions I've had with people around this very topic. However, today, when I'm talking about being seen, it is primarily about getting your work out there or your voice out there and yeah, sharing it with the world, which is super relevant to today and what's happening in the United States and in the world in general. And yeah, this is a really important time to think about ways that you can be seen ways to show up in your community, ways to have an impact with your voice. And I know for many people, myself included, that is a very kind of scary proposition when you're thinking about a sort of fascist-oriented autocracy, right? Because, we've seen evidence of that not playing out well for people who resist what the person in charge wants to have happen. So I'm not denying there's not risk involved. There is definitely risk. However, take this episode as you wish. It can be either in the context of social action, for social justice. It could be for economic justice. It could just simply be for your own personal creative visibility. And that's initially how the episode was constructed. But I just wanted to add that whole preamble because it's so prescient to what's happening right now. And what I'm feeling in the communities that I've been talking with, being with, and thinking about how do we move forward when everything that we've relied on is suddenly no longer there for us. So, with all that aside, let's get back to this particular podcast episode, which is about being seen and specifically about putting your work out there. So, whether it's an exhibition or a performance or a social media post, even, there's so many entrepreneurs who have so much hesitancy about putting themselves and their ideas out there on social media. And of course, all the marketers tell us that we must do that. People need to be able to see you and get to know you and hear your voice and your thoughts and your values. And then that is what creates connection. It creates trust. And people can find you based on, whether you're resonating with their own personal belief systems or goals or values, things like that. So yeah, so that can feel like stepping into a spotlight with no guarantees, right? Like, how will you be received? How will the work be received in the exhibition or in the performance, or even in the social media post? I have definitely had those worries pretty much every single time I have done any of those things, put work in an exhibition, done a performance, and even putting out posts on social media. So it's a real thing, and it's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's so, so natural. Other questions people ask are like, will people like it? Will they criticize it? Will they even notice? Sometimes we even wonder, like, we that whole imposter syndrome thing kinds of shows up at those moments. And what does that really mean, the imposter syndrome? And in this case, it's like, think about it. I know I keep going off script today because I don't know. I'm I'm just feeling it. So here we are. uh, my point is that if you get your work into an exhibition, it's already gone through, excuse me, it's already been vetted. And the people who've accepted your work into the exhibition, whether it's in a library or a gallery or a museum or a cafe, wherever it is that you're showing your work, someone has already said, yes, this, I think our people who come here will enjoy this. And so, yes, please hang your work or put your sculpture up or however it is you're creating. And even so, even though we get that first front, door acceptance and permission to show our work and to show up and to take up some space there still is often, I don't know if it's like this for you, but I think the thoughts that go through my mind are maybe the work, maybe someone could see the work as being weak or not strong enough, not compelling enough, or that kind of thing. And to that, Yeah, I don't know if that's the way the imposter syndrome shows up for you. Sometimes it's like, yeah, in my mind, the critic says, oh, so and so, or the majority of people that are going to show up could do it better than you, Gabrielle, right? Or as well. And so there's that debate that goes on in my head sometimes. And it's a really not fun debate to be having with myself, especially considering how much courage and effort it takes to dip your toe in the water and start getting your work out there into the world. But here's what I've come up with in the end. Regardless of what anybody else has to say about the work, whether they love it, whether they hate it, whether they think it's weak, whether they think it's banal or totally irrelevant to the times, whatever their opinion is of it, it really doesn't matter. It really no longer matters to me. Why? Because I am my first audience, first and only audience member that I want to please. So if I'm happy with the work, if I'm content with how it looks and what it's saying and how it's conveyed and how much craft or skill I put into it, or if it's loose and it's messy and that's how I want it to be, that's okay too. It doesn't have to take 5 years to create the one painting as it does for some or as it has for me in the past. That's not always the criteria for what makes a strong work, right? Sometimes it's just a simple gesture that conveys an idea so powerfully that nothing more is needed, right? So do you follow? So so when I got clear on that, I understood that really the only person's opinion that really, really matters is my own on the work. And yes, it's great to get feedback from other people and sort of see how they're understanding it or perceiving it, even how they're liking it or not liking it, what it is they like or not like about it. Because sometimes what they don't like about it is exactly why I think it's really good, because it means it's working. If that's sort of what I was going for, to sort of create a little discomfort or unease in how the work is received, because I want an idea to come across rather than to make a person feel good. Other work I've created is about helping people feel good and in their environment. A lot of my work is not that. So anyway, very long-winded. And I hope it resonates. Yeah, I'm really interested. If you listen to this and you're, getting through and you've got through this portion of it already, and you have some thoughts, I really hope you will share them in the comments section, either here in Facebook land or over on my YouTube channel, because it's really fun to see what people are picking up and receiving from these podcasts. Okay, let's continue. So through my Invisibility Lab project, I have seen firsthand how transformative it is when people feel truly seen and heard. And it's not just about visibility, it's about connection, it's about courage, it's about authenticity, it's about curiosity. So, in this episode, I'll share why fear of being seen holds us back and how to reframe it, strategies to build confidence and share your work with courage, and inspiring examples of creatives who stepped into their fearless expression and the impact they've made. So let's unlock the power of fearless expression together. So, why the fear of being seen holds us back. I talked about a lot of that already in this first intro preamble thing, which went on and on and on. But you can see I'm really fired up about it. It really means a lot to me. So I hope that works out for you. Anyway, the fear of being seen is universal. I mentioned that before. It is so true. It's deeply rooted in our desire for acceptance and safety. So for creatives, this fear often shows up as overthinking or perfectionism. Oh my gosh. What? Have you been spying on me? Scriptwriter, which is myself. Yes. Overthinking and perfectionism have kept me have definitely held me back way longer than I should have allowed. But that's another story. Okay, another way is holding back on sharing work because it doesn't really feel ready. And that could be that the art doesn't feel ready or the person, the artist making the work, doesn't feel ready. So is the art ready, good enough to be seen? Is the series in development and you're still working out a bunch of the pieces to it and you don't want to share the process? By the way, people love seeing what the process is. And sometimes they love the work in its messy process, which is a really exciting thing to see and to share with your followers and fans and people who might get to see your work in its finished stage. And then thirdly, avoiding opportunities that require visibility, like exhibitions or pitches, right? So if you need to uh, write a grant proposal and you need to answer all these questions, the only way you can get that grant is if you put your pitch in, your proposal, and that allows your work to be seen. It might not be up on any exhibition walls yet, but they are seeing not only the work that you are presenting in your pitch, but they're also seeing a part of you, the part that was open to receiving and perceiving whatever it was that you transformed into a work of art or a dance or a piece of written piece. So I can recognize myself in all three of these, and many of my clients are in that boat as well. What if they don't like it? What if I get rejected? What if, they make a comment that hurts? What if it happens? It's okay. You're still going to exist. You're going to live. You're going to get through it. It's going to hurt for a moment. It's going to hurt maybe for a week if you let it, but it doesn't have to. It doesn't, um, you must not let it become the definition of you because you exist way beyond whatever any one person's opinion is of you or your work. And really, what they have to say about it doesn't matter. Sure, it might matter to the grant or the pitch or the money or whatever it is you're trying to um, gain access to through an open call or some kind of opportunity like that. But don't let it define who you are. Just like any trauma that happens in your life, a trauma will definitely impact a person's life. Certainly has me, and it's also impacted the development and path of my life. The whole healing aspect, the acknowledgement, the healing, the work, the inner work, the growing, the processing, and then getting beyond all of that. But it doesn't define who I am. It's not like, oh, Gabrielle is this because that happened. No, there's a whole lot more to me than that thing that happened or those 60 things that happened. It's just part of shaping me, but it doesn't define me. So the same with a person's opinion or rejection about your art. It doesn't define who you are at all. So anyway, of course, I'm jumping right into these pieces. So in my invisibility lab, I've worked with individuals who've shared stories of hiding parts of themselves to feel safe or accepted. But they've also shared moments of courage when being seen, even in small ways, became a turning point. So take Eve Ensler, now known as V, the famous playwright and activist behind the Vagina Monologues, great heroine of mine. Her work tackled taboo topics with courage, sparking global conversations and empowering countless people around the world. She didn't wait for permission or universal approval to talk about this taboo subject. She embraced her voice, even when it felt uncomfortable. And I've worked with Eve Ensler. With V, she invited me to bring some of my projects to New Orleans for the Vita the 10th Super Love experience after Katrina, Hurricane Katrina. And it was really beautiful, the spaces they created there for healing, for health, for inspiration, for holding, for processing, for letting go, and for gaining strength and remembering who we truly are, and especially to provide all of that for women who had been displaced by Katrina, by the hurricane, and had lost their homes, lost everything. And V created a space with Super Love where we could all come together and remind these women that they are not defined by the circumstances they found themselves in during the hurricane, after the hurricane, and when they returned to New Orleans for this event. They are so much bigger than that, as are you. You are so much bigger than whatever the circumstances are that you may be in right now, or that you may still feel shame about from different parts of your life. If nothing else, that's my biggest message for today. So let's get back to the script. All right. So ask yourself these questions. What fears are holding me back from being seen? And you can jot them down if you want to. And you can go back to journaling about it later. I highly recommend that. What would I create if fear wasn't a factor? If fear wasn't a factor, if money wasn't a factor, if selling wasn't a factor, if you could just create anything your heart desires, what would that be? What would it look like? What would it smell like, feel like? What would the materials be? What kind of space would it need? What kind of space would you need? What resources would you have in place in order to be that person who could create that work? Allow yourself to dream about this. You can do daydreaming, you can do meditation, you can journal about it, you can go for a walk and play with it, pretend you're answering the question to, a fairy godmother, for example, or, some magical genie who could help you create this very thing, and speak it out into the world and feel all those pieces. Like, allow yourself. The best part, here's a trick to manifestation, which is not what I was going to talk about today, but this works and it's relevant here. Allow yourself to feel what it would be like in the best possible way that you can imagine it, what it would feel like to be the person that's creating those things that you are imagining and dreaming of making. Like, see it done. See yourself in an exhibition space with the work hanging on the wall and having conversations that are juicy and meaningful and exciting, and hearing what people have to say about it, and even like getting notifications of deposits of money, for the artwork that's being sold, or for the book that you're publishing or selling, or however you're doing what it is you are allowing yourself to be seen for. And play with that. Bask in it as much as possible. And speaking of basking, you might even take a bath, literally take a bath, and pretend you're giving yourself a deep, wonderful self-care luxury bath to celebrate your accomplishment of doing exactly the thing that you might like to create if fear and money or any other limitations were not a factor. So that could be a fun game. If you play it, please let me know how it goes. I'd love, love, love to see it in the chat or in the comment section. Okay, so segment 2, here we go. Building confidence through small wins. Okay, this is also really important. Confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you build step by step. So start small. Share your work with a trusted friend or a small group. Post something simple on social media without overthinking it. Or post it in a small group that you might feel really comfortable in on social media. It doesn't have to be to the whole great wide world. If you don't feel ready for that, you can just do it within a small group on one of the social media platforms if you have such a thing. You could also do it in a WhatsApp chat or whatever it is that feels small and safe and supportive enough for sharing it and getting feedback on it, because you will be surprised. People are so moved by art and all different kinds of art. And sometimes I'm even surprised at how excited people get about different kinds of art. Sometimes it's even art that I'm not excited about or interested in, but yeah, it speaks to people. And so that's the beautiful thing about it, right? When you're making art, writing, creating dance, creating a painting, or even a business, right? Like you're kind of driven to do that from your soul. And your soul is seeking expression through these mediums. And we're all connected. So it's going to resonate with other people. You will be surprised. Okay, number 2, focus on progress and not perfection. So celebrate the act of showing up and doing the work, showing up and writing a post or making the post or sending out the grant proposal or applying for an exhibition opportunity. Celebrate those acts, those actions, because they really count. You can't get into the show if you don't take the action, right? So celebrate taking the action because you know it took effort, you know it took courage, and you know that a piece of your soul is in that application or in that action. So celebrate it. Even have some gratitude for yourself, for your courage, for your you could think of it as your higher guide or your soul, compelling you to do it. So gratitude is a great place to start when you're feeling nervous about anything. Okay, number 3, reframe feedback. So remember, like I was sort of saying before, see any feedback that you receive just as information, not judgment. And likewise, see any failure as information, not judgment. So just taking that a little further, um, let's say you're sharing some work of art in a small group and you finally dare to do that. Okay, let's put aside exhibitions and all that kind of thing. You put your work out for people to see it. You get some feedback. Some might say, I think that red is really horrible in the painting. They might not be very good at giving feedback. And that's okay. You can educate people on how you would like your feedback to be delivered. But that's another whole different topic. But the point is, what I'm going to say here is that that's that person's opinion that red doesn't work. Maybe that person just doesn't like red. Maybe that person just doesn't like that particular red. Maybe it simply means they would do it differently. It doesn't mean it would be better. Okay, so just receive it as information. And then the same thing, very important with rejection or failure. There's no failure and no rejection. It's all part of the learning. So anything you learn from trying something and then not getting the result you want helps you get you closer to what you do want to see as a result, right? So, and then also in terms of rejection, like let's say you don't get a grant application or you don't get the exhibition opportunity that you're hoping to get. It doesn't mean your work is bad. It literally doesn't mean that. It more likely means that they had way too many submissions than they had room for. And so they had to make cuts, right? If you have 3 spots and 180 people apply for those 3 spots, that's 177 people who are going to not get that opportunity, right? And only 3 will. So don't take it personally. It's just numbers. It's just numbers. Every no gets you closer to a yes. Many of my mentors have said that. So, so back to the invisibility lab, I often use reflective exercises to help participants see their own progress. And these small moments of recognition, like writing down a win, sharing a story, or naming a fear, these small moments of recognition actually build confidence over time. Why is that? It's because, well, first of all, they get to see progress, and that's really important. It's so easy for us to dismiss all the tiny steps that build to making something at all, something complete. There's so many steps. And then we might discount the fact that you created the work. And it will only mean something once you have it in a gallery. And then once you have it in a gallery, that might not mean so much to you because you keep shifting the goalposts. It might only mean something if you sell it all, right? So you see how it's such a disservice to all the pieces, all the steps that you took to get you to that place. And that is a great service to so many things. Your soul, first of all, your spirit, your health, your mindset, uh, the way you feel about yourself in the world. So definitely, definitely strongly recommend that you don't do that. And this is something, it took me a long time to start paying attention to the small steps, the small wins, the small bits of progress I was making, and to celebrate each part of them. Because it's not going to get done by itself. Somebody has to do it. And that somebody is me. That somebody is you, right? All those pieces that go into creating that work that you're making is is dependent on you. Nobody else is going to make it, right? So celebrate yourself for all those steps. And even if the celebration is simply just jotting them down so you can pay attention to, like, oh yeah, I spent 6 hours on this project today. It doesn't look like I did anything, but the 6 hours went into all these other pieces. All right, so there's that. Reflective exercises, these moments of recognition, right? These are really important. So also think about Marina Abramović. She's one of my favorite artists. Her performance art often pushes the boundaries of vulnerability, and her fearless expression did not happen overnight. She worked up to that. She worked up to being able to sit in a museum staring face to face with strangers without moving for 8 solid hours a day for however long it was, 1 month or 3 months or whatever it was. I don't remember now, but the duration, the endurance that she had to create was significant. And I too, as a performance artist, have fortunately developed the skill of being able to be with discomfort, even as it's happening in the moment. I can't say I do it well every time, but I can draw upon it when I remember to. And that's really, really powerful. So yeah, her fearless expression didn't happen overnight. It grew as she leaned into her work, one daring project at a time. So you'll find that too. Your confidence will build over time as you continue doing the work and acknowledging the parts that go into making the work. Okay. All right. So here's some strategies for sharing your work with courage. Let's see. Sharing your work doesn't have to feel overwhelming. Here are some strategies to help you share your creativity with confidence. So first, as I mentioned before, more or less, create a safe starting point. Start with platforms or spaces where you feel supported, whether that's a local art show, an art group, rather, an online community, or some other low pressure exhibition. And then you can learn the experience of setting up, working with other people, collaborating, getting feedback from them, getting tips of people who are more experienced. That's always really fun. Seeing how people respond to feedback on their work and seeing if there's something there that you could incorporate into how you receive feedback. So there's a lot that you can gain by starting with platforms or spaces where you feel really supported. Number two, tell your story. Share the why behind your artwork, behind your dance, behind your poem. People connect with the authenticity much, much more than any like perfection or mastery or technical mastery, for example. Like, yes, that can be impressive, but really what's behind it? Why did you put that effort into the work? What drove that project forward for you? What inspired it? Some cases, it's just like I wanted to play around and see what would happen. Sometimes it's like I got new paints and I wanted to play with them and see what would happen. And this is what I got. And I got excited about it. It could be that. I would wager that there's more to it than that. And that if you are willing to open the doors to your heart a little bit more and share kind of what the impetus was there, your work will resonate even more with people. Okay. Number 3 is set boundaries. So you can decide in advance what kind of feedback you're open to and what you'll ignore. So I kind of referred to this earlier. You could, for example, if you're working in a group setting of people who are sharing their work and looking for feedback, you could say, here's this written piece I did. I'm pretty happy with it. There are a few pieces that feel a little bit rough around the edges or whatever it is. And I'd love your feedback or suggestions for how I could fix these particular pieces, if you have any ideas. That's one way you could ask for feedback, right? Another way is, let's say you have some paintings, a body of work, for example, say 3 or 4 paintings that you've been working on, and you're preparing them for an exhibition. And you could say that that's what's going on. You've prepared these paintings for an exhibition and you are looking for feedback on framing. You could keep it really simple, not about the work specifically, but about how to present them. Or it could be about where to present them if you don't have your location yet. Another form of feedback could be, I'd like to hear what you appreciate about the work. Not ready to receive any corrections. I'm not ready to receive any criticisms. But if there is something here that you like or appreciate in the work, and I'm pretty sure most people can come up with something, then you can say, that's what I would like to hear. That's what I'm needing right now. And that is so valid. It's so valid to ask for that. Okay, we don't get to do that with critics who come into an exhibition space and that kind of thing, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about sharing it in a small, safe group. Allegedly safe. We hope it's safe. Okay. And then as it actually specifically says here, you can decide in advance what kind of feedback you're open to and what you will ignore. So using those examples, if someone says, I hate that red, just let it go. Just ignore it. It's like, okay, thank you. Thanks for your opinion. Or, that kind of thing. So you get to decide. And the same is true with how you feel, how you allow your emotions to settle in your body. You have a lot more control over that than you know, and that's another whole separate conversation and maybe even a whole episode. But if it is something you'd like help with, reach out to me because I love helping people with being able to change their thoughts and therefore their emotions and then have better outcomes. Like I love that stuff. Okay. Okay, the fourth thing is keep a record of wins. So it's sort of like what I was talking about earlier. But specifically here, document positive feedback. So anything people are saying, document it. Document moments of connection, either with people who are connecting to the work or who you're connecting with, they're connecting with you through the work, or any other form of connection. It could even happen just between you and the work in the studio, because there's something magnificent that can happen in that situation as well. When you're in flow and you sort of feel like, wow, I don't even feel like I'm the person making this piece and it's just flowing into magnificence in some amazing way. That's really incredible. It does happen, but only if you get yourself into the studio and the right state of mind. Okay, so document positive feedback, document moments of connection, and also milestones to remind yourself of your progress so that everything counts. Everything counts. It's all part of the process. Okay, let's get into embracing vulnerability as a superpower. Vulnerability as a superpower. There's been a lot of talk on vulnerability. Thank you very much to Brene Brown, who does incredible work on this topic. Vulnerability is often seen as a weakness, but in reality, it's one of your greatest strengths as a creative. When you share your work from a place of authenticity, you create space for connection and for empathy and transformation. All right. When you share your truth, just like Eve Ensler did, just like V, now called V, did with the vagina monologues, when she talked about her stories and the stories that she had heard that other women had had around sex and sexual assault and abuse, and then she did a whole play and a book on it, she opened the door for other women to be able to speak of the same. And not only that, she dared speak it and stand in that truth of hers strongly. And that in itself was inspiring for so many people, men and women, not just women, men and women, to see evidence of a person who had experienced trauma, abuse, violence in her life, standing strong and being a sovereign being, strong, empowered, creative, voracious, outspoken. That was inspiring for so many women because they're like, oh, there's someone who hasn't been destroyed by it. So maybe I don't have to be destroyed by it either. Maybe I can grow from this. Maybe I too can be strong enough to speak of this with others and help other women on their path to healing. And that is a pretty magnificent, powerful, powerful thing. And that's exactly what happened to me. I had started speaking about sexual assault and incest and things like that, and within my family and my own experience. And actually, one of the reasons why I felt invisible to some and too visible to others growing up. And I started exhibiting this work that had to do with that subject. And it was a place where people could write and share theirs as well. So I was doing this. This is like back in 2001. And somebody wrote on this piece, check out vday.org or the Vagina Monologues. I can't remember which one she said. And then I went and checked out the Vagina Monologues and I was like, oh my God, this woman is talking about the same stuff I am. This is amazing. So we both kind of came onto the scene at the same time. And V is an incredible playwright with an incredible network of very powerful women in her life and has done extraordinarily well creating beautiful movements, billions of women, millions and millions of women rising and supporting one another. It's a really beautiful thing. I don't work quite so large, so you're going to know her name much, much more than my name, and that's totally okay. But anyway, even in my smaller versions of this kind of transformation, this kind of vulnerability, I've received letters from people who have shown up in my workshops saying, like, just coming into this room with other women who've experienced something similar and being led by a woman who has experienced something similar to me has been an enormous undertaking and so worthwhile. It's like she said, that alone has had a huge healing impact on me. But beyond that, seeing a person who's vibrant and strong and confident and able to talk about these things without falling to pieces gives me so much hope, gives me so much hope and courage to keep doing the work to heal. Just the best testimonial I could have ever dreamed of getting. So your voice matters. Your courage matters. your art matters. However it is that you are speaking to, what moves you, what your soul wants you to talk about is so important. When you share your work, I'm going to repeat this. When you share your work from a place of authenticity and vulnerability, you create space for connection, empathy, and transformation. So also take Laurie Anderson, the multidisciplinary artist and musician, another one of my favorite artists, whose groundbreaking performances merge storytelling, technology, and sound. Her work invites audiences into her deeply personal experiences while exploring universal themes, proving that vulnerability isn't a flaw, it's a bridge to connection. In the Invisibility Lab, participants often describe the profound relief and joy of allowing themselves to be seen fully and without judgment. That kind of vulnerability creates a ripple effect, inspiring others to step into their courage. So fear of being seen is natural, but it doesn't have to hold you back. By embracing small steps, leaning into vulnerability, and focusing on connection over perfection, you can share your work with confidence and courage. So take a moment to reflect. What's one small way you can share your work this week? It could be with just one person. It could be on social media. It could be with a small group. What is one small way you can share your work this week? And number two, what would fearless expression look like for you? What would fearless expression look like for you? So again, going into that sort of daydreamy state, a meditation, or however you want to do it, if you do it on a walk or whatever, you can think about that. What would fearless expression look like for you? If you feel like sharing it, I would love to hear it. And you can always private message me. You don't have to put it in the comments where it's public. But if you'd like to share that with me, I would love to hear it. So if you're ready to take the next step, you can book a 30-minute visibility coaching call with me. Together, we can explore what's holding you back. We can create a plan to unlock your fearless expression. And there are, like I said, limited spots available right now. So you can check the link in the show notes to reserve your spot. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of The Thriving Creative. If this conversation inspired you, please share it with fellow creatives who might also need some encouragement to step into their fearless expression. So keep showing up and keep thriving. The world needs your voice now more than ever. I thank you for being here. It is a privilege to be here. This episode went way longer than they usually do. They've usually been 20 minutes, but I guess I had a lot to say on this one. I send you so much love and appreciation and courage. Keep it up.